That feeds really well into my my next album.
Okay, perfect.
So,
let's pull that out.
Yeah, Bellum Regiis, 2025 album of the year for me. This album is, in my mind, if Behemoth took what they did with Demigod and where they were kind of going with that sound, and then what they eventually did with the Satanist, and continued to kind of converge those sounds and expand upon it, you would come up with Bellum Regiis by Hate.
Okay.
Arguable, that is the correct way to, kind of phrase this, but this album is fucking amazing. Like, It is so powerful. It is the structure, the melodies, the layering of the guitar and the composition. There's nothing terribly complex about this album on the individual instrument. We're not dealing with a extreme amount of leads or other. The drumming is insane. I'll say that, but it's such like the way that the Satanist really, like the composition, the emotion, just the rawness of it. But like you said, and I think you put it really well, like high art, like putting that refined touch on the finished product. This is still raw. This is still, it's probably more produced some of their recent albums prior to this one, but in my mind, this one is just, it's such an amazing offering. Similarly to my 2024 album of the year, which we'll talk about in a minute. This was my first exposure to Hate.
Okay.
My vocalist for Abyssalis actually shared it, and anytime he shares something, I take it up. He is huge into black metal. As I find so many vocalists and other musicians are, which I'm not like historically haven't been into, but definitely getting more and more into things that are heavily black metal influenced. Mm-hmm. This album is definitely one of those. So well composed, and just amazing song after amazing song. Not a bad one on there. No fillers, absolutely at all. The Vanguard is probably one of my absolute favorites. Perun Rising, but A Ghost of Lost Delight. It's such a beautiful song, but so brutal, and like it's like it was the first one to kind of really grab me and pull me in off of this album.
Okay,
listening through it. But this one, we were moving, and so I was packing boxes and moving shit into storage rooms and stuff like that, and so like ended up with constantly having my earbuds in while I'm working and packing boxes and moving stuff, and so this was almost on repeat for like a solid 3 or 4 months as we moved. So huge album, amazing offering from this band that I've come to really find that they're I mean, not surprising, they're Polish metal band, so they're going to sound a lot like your Behemoths and others. So I'm sure the similarities are not surprising whatsoever to people that know their origin. But amazing album.
That's awesome. I'll be honest, I ignored this album, and a couple months ago I heard one song off of it, and I wasn't sure what to expect, but I remember being really impressed, and for whatever reason I never went back. But because of this, you've convinced me to. I'm going to check this album out later today.
Awesome.
So awesome. That's really great.
Enjoy it. Ulcerate, 2024 album of the year for me.
Yeah, so the last concert that actually we attended together was seeing Ulcerate over at the Earl.
Amazing show.
Really glad you brought this, and I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about it.
Absolutely. Similarly to Hate, this was, in 2024, was my first exposure to Ulcerate. They put out an album, Stare Into Death and Be Still, in, I want to say, 2021, 2022, something along those timelines. And a number of my friends were sharing it, such an amazing album. I mentioned discomfort when listening to music. The only other solid example I have of this is Vitriol, which, I don't want to get left at a gas station, so we probably shouldn't talk about that. But listening to this album, is like peak discomfort. but in such an addictive way. The layering of the guitars and the bass and the drummer is insane. The album was just, it presents so well and as such a single unit of, amazing work. Each song, they're like, it takes me so long to really dive into, to the pieces and parts and really understand kind of what's behind, a lot of the material. Seeing them live, though, really pushed that to the forefront for me. And the first thing, and I'm not 15 and 16-year-old Josh, so I'm really not looking through the band, like see who's in the bio necessarily. That's not a juvenile thing, but it's just something that I don't have as much time for anymore. So like I listen to music, I enjoy it. I, learn about the bands, but I'm less of like learning names of songs and, who plays what or what have you, and just more like enjoying the composition.
Sure.
There's so much music these days that it's impossible for me to like listen to everything, let alone, know the ins and outs of every band. I'm ashamed to say that I didn't realize that they were a 3-piece.
Oh, wow.
And so we see them there at the Earl. I also assumed, again, just listening to the music, and I guess that's a testament to what they're offering, is that it wasn't obvious to me that the guitar player is using a loop pedal and the bass player is using overdrive to really supplement that guitar, the depth of the music behind the bass player who is also the vocalist. Holy shit. I mean, and then you've got the drummer who, when I was listening to this album for a solid fucking year, it didn't, like, the amazing, like, technicality behind what he's doing behind that kit. It was there. It added every bit to the music, but seeing it live was mind blowing. Like, it's like seeing something that's standing right out there in the forefront and you just don't, you don't see it at first. And then when it hits you, you're just like, holy fuck. Seeing them live and seeing them perform some of these songs, as well as some of the songs that, I've since begun to, or grown to love, from Staring to Death and Be Still, and some of their earlier albums. But this one and the title track, Cutting the Throat of God, not only do does the song title, I love it. It's extreme, it's provocative, which, I love any of that. But the intensity and the emotion in that song are unmatched.
Yeah.
In 2024, I didn't, there was nothing that I heard that I spun nearly as much, put on repeat nearly as much as this album.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, this came out in Debamore Morti, right? Pretty sure. Yeah.
It came out what?
Debamore Morti, the record label.
Oh.
I might be mispronouncing it. That's a label where I see that and instantly I'm going to listen to it.
Yep.
I don't always love everything they put out,
sure,
but chances are I'm going to. They're label mates with Blut Aus Nord.
Okay.
And Achilles.
Achilles, yes.
I never know how to pronounce them, even though I've seen them live.
I've never seen them live. They were maybe not number 2 in 2024, but I've House of Black Gaminis or whatever.
Yeah.
Pronouncing black metal band names and song names,
album,
forget it.
Yeah,
I don't want to. But that was, I mean, I was into this, so it wasn't a stretch for me to get into Achilles. I've always called them Achilles. That was one of my favorite albums of 2024 as well, alongside this one.
Yeah, I find this band really interesting simply by like the kind of fans they attract. Like when I first heard this band, I was like, oh yeah, this is like cavernous death metal is how I would have categorized it. But then I see people who are super into tech death and like only into tech death really love this band. And so I think it's really cool how they can kind of, because like, I mean, to me, the production styles are very different.
Yes.
And the fact that this band has that technical death, it attracts people who are into technical death metal while still having this really big, cavernous, deep, brooding kind of atmosphere.
Yes.
Is just really, really cool. I also loved this album as well, so I'm really glad that you chose to bring this one.
2024 was a huge year for me for music. We had completed the writing of Adaptation at the end of that year that I reached out to Kunal from Transcending Obscurity, some buddies of mine, and Unaligned and Eschaton, had put out, or had announced their forthcoming albums. I'd sort of rolled the dice and said, hey, what do you think of this, project that I've got, Abyssalis? He wrote me back within, I think, 15 minutes and said, look, I had closed out 2025, album releases, but then you sent me this. And that was the biggest honor, was to have somebody respond to our music that way.
Wow.
We put a lot of work into it. This album, I worked with Josh Curl from Violent System on production. And I threw him some curveballs. I said, hey, our last EP, we did, MIDI bass, MIDI drums. We want to make a good album with some extreme music. And so then, I came back to Josh and said, all right, so next up we're doing live drums, live bass, and we're gonna track all of this. So reached out to Jack Blackburn, who you would know from Demon King, Unaligned as well. He did some early Inferi albums, big in the sort of like Tennessee tech death scene. I reached out to Cole Daniels, who also was doing Demon King, Fleshbore. So Fleshbore, Unaligned, and Eschaton had all recently signed to Transcending Obscurity as well. So Josh was up for it, and he mixed this album, did a great job, and really happy with the product. That was the end of 2024 when I took that chance. It was a big year for me for that reason alone.
Nice, awesome.
So yeah, Abyssalis, huge shout out to quite a number of folks. First and foremost, Kunal from Transcending Obscurity for having the faith in us to put their label behind this album, give us a release, give us these awesome digipack CDs. Cole, who stepped in on bass, Jack Blackburn on drums, and as always, Mac on vocals, one of the hardest working vocalists in the scene, hands down. He's part of Adaptation, Eschaton, Hammer of Dawn. He was going to tour with Decrepit Birth as their touring vocalist.
Oh, wow.
Bill was taking a hiatus, for a little bit, but that didn't end up materializing. Bill came back before Mac could take up the vocal responsibilities for that tour that they had. Really appreciate, everyone's efforts on making this album, come out as well as it did. Jack Blackburn is our session drummer. Right now looking for a full-time local drummer that might be willing to take up, some of the drum responsibilities there. We're first kind of looking to just, find somebody that can do some live shows with us. Excited for this search and where it may lead. Hoping to find somebody. I'm talking to somebody now, but hopefully that pans out, and then if we have to ship in Cole from wherever he may be on tour at that point, to do a couple of shows, but we'll see. We're trying to bring this live to the stage here in Atlanta. At least a couple of times a year, have some good shows.
Yeah, I am so excited to see you performing live again. I'm really stoked. I was so excited when I saw that you were looking for members to put a live band together. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, Abyssalis new EP, which came out last year, Adaptation, is available. Came out on Transcending Obscurity, which is a really sick record label. I was really pumped when I saw that you guys were releasing on that as well. And the CD actually comes with his first EP on here as well. So it's kind of like a double album in that way. Yeah.
Absolutely. And shout out to Justin Abraham for the amazing artwork. He delivered on this in such a huge way. He gave Kunal and the guys at Transcending Obscurity a lot of good material to work with to produce this awesome CD.
Yeah, and it looks amazing. The foil print looks so cool. It really matches the art and kind of like the fiery. It really adds like a fieriness to it, which is really awesome. I was telling you earlier, I really appreciate that you guys actually put out a real digipack with really cool artwork that folds out. There's lyrics. There's tons to read. There's also a booklet in here which includes the lyrics and artwork to the first EP.
The Mountain.
The Mountain, yes. And a limited run of 500, so you definitely want to pick it up. And it comes with stickers as well as the hand-numbered versioning certificate, I guess I'll call it, in here as well. Josh, thank you so much for coming today. You're a great friend of mine. I really appreciate it. But all these stories you had to share were really cool, really interesting. And we're going to be doing a giveaway where we're going to give away a copy of Adaptation along with Arlen City Massacre t-shirt as well that Josh was so generous to donate to us. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Josh, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Is there anything else you want to shout out? I mean, I know you said you're putting the band, or you're putting some live shows together this year, and yeah, I guess keep your eyes peeled, follow Abyssalis, and if you're in the southeast, definitely keep an eye out because you're going to want to see them when they play live.
I hope to see everyone at some shows.